a very popular topic. Many people have sent in this question in one form or another over the past several days. This one I'll read first and then I'll add a little bit to it after the fact. Was sent in to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Alan in San Jose, California. I just wanted to know your opinion on the WWE's drastic stock market plunge. As of January 30th, 2020, WWE fell 23% on the stock market. This could be attributed to poor live attendance, low viewership ratings, a horrible deal with Saudi Arabia, and members of the WWE board leaving. Is this a sign?
Leaving?
Well,
leaving?
That's what I'm going to add on to it, but
that's like how I left the building one time in handcuffs.
Is this a sign that the wrestling industry as a whole is dying? Or a sign that professional wrestling was never meant to be traded on the stock market?
Bingo!
Do you see WWE recovering from this? And let me add on to Alan's questions. What are your thoughts on the news that the WWE has fired their two co-presidents shortly before the earnings report, which, from all accounts, is not going to be a very promising report? What are your thoughts on all of this that's been happening over the past week?
Well, and now we're taking away from the experience this week, because that's one of the things I jotted down to talk about. But what the heck, will throw caution to the wind. Somebody else will do something stupid that we can talk about in the next 2 or 3 days. No, the WWE's not going out of business, and no, this doesn't mean the wrestling is crashing any more or any less than it was crashing yesterday. What it means is that the stock market got mad because Vince fired the two bigwigs and thinks there's something majorly wrong. Because what I think is majorly wrong is it was reported they'll get seven-figure severance packages, and they were both making about $13 million a year apiece. And that's what I think is wrong, and that's what's been wrong since I worked there, and that's what's been wrong before that. Only it's gotten to be a much bigger scale since this whole thing happened with the stock market and blah, blah, blah. When I was there 25 years ago in the fucking office in Stamford, they had hired some fucking goof, goddamn Osbear d'Arce, I think may have been his name. I saw him one time in one of the hotels we're going for to TV, and he was coming from the workout room, and he was an older guy, and he was wearing a T-shirt and real short gym shorts, and the T-shirt was long, so it looked like he was an old senior citizen walking around the goddamn hotel lobby with no pants on. And they paid him twice as much money as they were paying the fucking wrestlers at that time, maybe more than twice, I'm sure, at a time when wrestling was down. And Vince has always looked for these fucking executives and these big business people that he will pay ridiculous amounts of money to, that he will give benefits to, insurance and stock options and paid leave and time off and incentive programs and this and that. And at the same time, and that's why J.J. Dillon left. Read J.J.'s fine book. Because that's when they were hurting for money in the mid-'90s. He cut all the wrestling people's salary like 40%. And I think that's maybe why Lord Al Hayes kind of finished up not long after that, as I recall. But that's why J.J. determined he was going to leave as soon as he could. But they didn't cut any of the business fucking side. They've always paid these fucking executives millions of dollars or multiple amounts of money more than the wrestlers. Number one, there's a bunch of fucking college graduates in the world, hundreds of millions, and there's hundreds of millions of executives in the world that have worked for major companies. And there's very few, fewer than ever now, but few even then, great professional wrestlers. But a wrestling company paid the fucking guys that didn't take any bumps and didn't actually fucking contribute to the actual product. Yes, they did valuable jobs, but the point I'm making is when you've got a pool of millions of people to draw from to fill those positions, to do those jobs in marketing and management and all that stuff, and you have very few people to draw from to actually put on your shelves and sell as your product, I've always thought it was ridiculous that these business people, they would come just to put, to get a payoff, and they'd be in the wrestling business for a little while, and they'd move on to some other company. They'd go to Disney, or you see them all the time, and the writers come and go, so they can put it on their resume that they were in the WWE for a period of time, and then they dabbled in the wrestling sector, you fucking little weasel, and then fucking moved on to something else, instead of being people in the goddamn wrestling business. And they're paying them more than they're paying the fucking wrestlers. So the whole reason why the stock crashed is because when something like that happens with the top and all Wall Street and all these companies, they're controlled by people who think that executives are in charge of the world and are the most important people. So if in the Attitude Era, the last time they did huge business, if this same thing had happened and Vince had fired Austin and Rock on the same day, I bet you the stock would have barely moved. But because they fire executives, they thought, oh my God, there's something going on in the company. There's turmoil and their top executives are gone. That means the wrestling's going to suck now. The wrestling ain't going to change. If it sucks now, it's going to continue to suck. And if it doesn't suck to you now, it's going to continue to not suck. These people leaving is not going to have any different whatsoever in the product. But they were getting $13 million a year apiece or whatever. Fuck. But that's why the stock crashed, because there was no orderly exit. Vince got mad at him for whatever reason. They disagreed with him, and he said, you're done, which is what happens with everybody in Vince's life except his family, because you can't fire your family. Even though Shane took a nice long leave of absence for a while, because apparently, he wanted to do something else. But no, if you don't agree with Vince, or Vince decides one day that, well, this is, Vince can decide one day he loves you and the next day something, we need to make a change. And then that's the thing, and I've always been on the complete opposite end. To me, I cannot separate business and personal, and Vince, there is nothing personal to him about business. He can fire you and throw you out back basically in the street, and your family be hungry, and you could still be personal friends. Go, well, why is he mad at me? It was just business. Whereas I'm like, you fire me one time, motherfucker, you'll never get another chance because we're done forever. And that's the way, except every once in a while, a company has fired me, but the person that actually fired me wasn't there anymore, so I came back, and it probably still didn't fucking lead to a happy ending, but I seldom, if ever, give anybody a second chance to piss me off, whereas Vince lives by it. He thinks nothing of it and can't understand why anybody would be upset at him at all if he just suddenly said, no, fuck, you're done, bye. But anyway, that's what the whole stock deal was. It just, and they didn't even work out a thing, or we announced we're going to leave at such and such time. It's like, nope, they're gone. So Wall Street goes, oh, fuck. Nothing's going to change.
I'm still amazed that Wall Street hasn't gotten a wind of some of the stories going around about Vince and his condition.
I'm still astonished that Wall Street ever got involved with Vince 20 years ago in his condition. Okay, but the first thing I said a wrestling company on Wall Street selling stock. That was really the beginning of the end. Because once you get that fucking mainstream, you can never actually be interesting again. Wrestling is all about fucking making people mad and then making them want to see somebody get even. And no, fuck. Wrestling shouldn't ever even have been national. That was the start of the downfall, because of the way that it needs to be promoted, and the way that it's best when it is promoted is regional at best. When you go national and all that stuff, and then you get publicly traded. And then you have a human resources department, and then the fucking wrestlers in the locker room are complaining because somebody bullied me, and I don't feel comfortable. Fuck.
The biggest benefit that AEW has is that they're going against this version of Vince, because he is he's driving off fans from his product faster than he ever has, and in the last 20 years, that's all they've done. Is driven people off. The people who stay will spend more. Yeah. There are a lot of people who don't watch actively that will fly in for a WrestleMania.
Yeah.
But there are less people watching and caring, less new people getting interested in wrestling than ever before.
And by the way, the only ones that get interested in becoming wrestlers are not now full-grown men that look like they should be in prison for fucking killing somebody with their bare hands, but a bunch of goddamn little children that want to play fun. And with Vince running people off with just a bland, homogenized showbiz version of wrestling, it's opened the door for these fucking little jackoffs to come in and do a complete shit show silliness fucking funny festival And people think that's somehow a fucking alternative, an alternative to the bland shit. Yes, but if we're talking about what this is supposed to be, what it is when it works, when people actually watched in great numbers, it's all shit. It all sucks. It's just we're grading on curves. We're allowing for, okay, well, this wouldn't have been worth a shit 20 years ago, but now in this field, yes, it was a good match or a good job or this guy, whatever. And there's some talent that could have gotten over in any era, as I've mentioned, and we've talked about them. But most of them, they get in the business just to play doing this, and the only ones that really shoot for the top and have the ability are handicapped by having to work with a bunch of nonsense along the way.